Well, I'm joined now from our studio in Plymouth by David Goodhart, the director of Demos, whose ideas to limit benefits for new migrants are thought to be given serious consideration by Number 10. And here in the studio by Jonathan Portes from the National Institute of Economic and Social Research, who has accused David Goodhart in the past of scapegoating immigrants. David Goodhart, your latest report calls for changes to restrict the number of foreign job seekers, reserve more jobs for British workers, even exclude poorer countries to prevent, as you put it, them exporting unemployment. I mean, is that what you think immigrants have brought to this country, unemployment?
No, of course not. It's been a very mixed picture on the whole, but could I make it clear, we're talking here only about European Union states, and in relation to the European Union, we have to treat all people that come here more or less as if they are British citizens in the labour market, in social housing, in benefits.
And what's wrong with that?
Well, because we still have our main commitment to nation states. I mean, right across Europe, I think a lot of people are bewildered that we have to treat European Union citizens in exactly the same way. That, you know, people's identities and their politics and welfare states are still based around nation states. Now, this didn't matter in the old days. I mean, this has been part of the European Union going back to 1957, going back to the Treaty of Rome. It didn't matter when it was a few thousand professionals crossing borders. We now have mass movement of people, particularly from the poorer countries, the A8 countries, Poland and Czech Republic and so on, which had incomes one quarter to the level of Britain when they joined in 2004. So it is a particular
type of immigrant that is not right.
There was a huge incentive, yes. Because, immigrants from outside the EU, there are all sorts of restrictions on what benefits they can claim. What I am proposing is that we should, in certain circumstances, be able to place some restrictions or a probationary period before people from EU countries can have full access to the welfare state. I mean, I'm also making various proposals about the ability to control labour market access in certain circumstances, and to deal with this problem of the mass movement that the system was never designed for. We should have some system, say if Turkey joins the European Union in the future, we should have...
Sorry to cut across you. It very much gives the impression that immigrants come here and they live it up on benefits, and that is what you are trying to now curb.
No, I don't believe that is the case. I think on the whole, East European immigrants probably contribute more than they take out, although there's an argument about it. If you include tax credits and things, it's probably pretty close. But the point is, we have a very open labour market. We have a very open welfare system. You have access to it now immediately. You just have to be resident in the UK. And that does act as a kind of magnet, more so than for other European countries.
Let me bring in Jonathan Portes here. I mean, David Goodhart's described you in the past as the Whitehall economist from the New Labour era, most in favour of as much immigration as possible, that this sort of liberal policy on immigration has left us where we are today, with a system that he says is not working necessarily.
Well, I am in favour of a liberal and flexible labour market under this government and previous ones. Now, what I would say is that David says, we don't know whether Eastern European immigrants are paying their way. We do, including tax credits. There's been a very well-documented piece of research that shows that immigrants from the new member states contribute considerably more through taxes than they take out in public services. That's very well established. And we also know whether they're likely to claim benefit or not. And as your interview showed, actually we know that Eastern European immigrants are about half as likely to claim benefits as native Britons. So we know that there's not really a problem here. David is inventing a solution to a problem which really doesn't exist. And that,
part of David Goodhart's argument is that this is about what this has left people with, white working class people, low paid or unemployed. It has left them at the bottom of the pile.
Well, there is a serious problem, as I've said, and I've said this to David, there's a serious problem at the lower end of our labour market, in particular for, as you say, white working class people in some areas with low skills and qualifications who find it difficult to succeed in the labour market. But actually, if you look around the country, it's quite clear where that problem is worst. It's actually worst in places like Hull, Knowsley, Doncaster, places
So what
where
do you think
labour
David
demand
Goodhart
is very
is doing
weak.
with this debate?
Well, I think the point is that the problem is
can I-
significantly worse, actually in places where immigrants haven't gone.
David
So
Goodhart-
that's what I mean by scapegoating.
David Goodhart
We're
responds to that. He says you're scapegoating.
The big factoid here is that 20% of people working in low-skilled jobs in the UK were born outside the country. Now, given that there are many parts of the country where there are hardly any immigrants, that means that in many places it'll be 30 or 40%. There clearly is pressure and competition in the labour market, particularly those at the bottom end.
So why is youth unemployment higher in places with lower immigration?
It alienates people. I mean, I'm in favour of the European Union. I do not think that we should abandon freedom of movement, but I think we should introduce qualifications and caveats to it. Because it enormously alienates people from the good things about the European Union.
That David Goodhart is in sync with what a huge part of the population in this country
he may well be,
believe at
but
the moment.
I think what
and
alienates...
that you're out of step.
Yes, I'm not here to talk about popular opinion. What it seems to me is alienates people is David, and this is what I mean by scapegoating, is pointing to immigration as the main problem around low wages, around educational underperformance, around the difficulty we have around youth unemployment, when the evidence quite clearly shows youth unemployment rose more. Youth unemployment rose more in places
even the report
with
you
lower
just
immigration.
cited. Even the report you just cited did not include tax credits. I mean, it is not clear.
You're wrong, David. As usual, you've got your facts wrong. I'm afraid David
it was a DWP report.
No, it wasn't actually, David.
Just one moment. Just very briefly.
You haven't read the literature, as usual.
But the point is,
very briefly,
you
David,
were part of a government that thought 13,000 people would come, and 1.5 million people came. Now, all I'm saying is that we should, if that happens again, we should have the ability, as Switzerland does, to have a safeguard clause that says, let's have a pause
very briefly, Jonathan
years.
Porter, what is wrong with that idea? Very briefly.
Well, as you said, part of being in the European Union is free movement of workers. That has benefited the British economy. The report, which, as I said, does include tax credits, showed very clearly that Eastern Europeans made they pay in about 30 to 40% more than they take out.
The National
David is
Institute
trying to blame immigrants for labour market problems which have very little to do with immigration.
Thank you very much for joining us. David Goodhart in Plymouth, Jonathan Porter's now. John.